Turn your life around for the final bell. It's now or never, you have to change well. It's now or never, you must change well. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Change Well podcast. Now yesterday, I had a lot on my mind, just like a lot of you. In addition to the election day, it was the 22nd anniversary of my dad, Big D's passing. So in honor of my dad, to celebrate our democracy and organize the many thoughts in my head, I will attempt what has been affectionately called this election year, the weave. My definition of the weave is connecting several lines of disparate thought to develop a consistent theme. That may not be other people's definition of the weave. Today's weave will hopefully create a tapestry of life lessons that lead to wellness. The thread that ties this weave together is the many lessons I learned from my father and how they helped me become a better person. So let's start weaving. I'm going to start with my father. I'm going to start with Big Russ. And who's Big Russ? Well, Big Russ was Tim Russard's father. And Tim Russard wrote a book on him. Now, who is Tim Russard? Or who was Tim Russard? Tim Russard died in 2008. But he was and is still my favorite journalist. He was the epitome of authenticity and enthusiasm for our democracy. The longtime host of Meet the Press, he was thorough, insightful, and always civil but challenging in his questions. I used to watch Meet the Press every Sunday. I do not watch Sunday shows anymore. I used to love politics. I could do without him right now. Another reason I miss Tim Russard is his dedication to family. As I said, he wrote one of my favorite memoirs, Big Russ and Me, about his relationship with his father. Big Russ and the lessons he learned from him are in that book. Big Russ's and Tim's relationship reminded me of my one with my dad, Big D. The similarities are uncanny. Both raised 4 children with their wives, did not finish high school, had blue-collar jobs, and served in the military. And believe it or not, both worked on a garbage truck. Big Russ, that was his day-to-day job. My dad worked as a garbage man back when he was on strike with the union. Both of them taught us life lessons that made their sons better. I will not try to write a book today, but I will attempt this election day weave, although I could write that book someday. Oh wow, I'm doing a weave now anyway. Okay, let's get off that. Instead, I will provide the top 5 lessons I learned from my dad, and they resonate even more loudly 22 years after his passing. The first one is get the iron out the door. My dad used to say it all the time, but what is the iron? Where's the door? Iron refers to the large turbines that generate electricity in dams. And my dad, Big D, was a steelworker machinist and he worked on these turbines. He had to repair them, get them out of the door as quickly as possible to their destination worldwide. Equally important, though, however, is that they did not come back through the door. So you had to get it out fast, but you had to be consistent, show hard work, and it required a lot of diligence to make sure the turbine was balanced. The lesson is to learn your craft, roll up your sleeves, and work daily for your family. Politics come and go. Family resides, and you gotta get the iron out the door and put food on the plate. Next, there's always room for improvement. My dad was good at getting the iron out the door, but he always was looking at a way to make his team get it done faster, cheaper, and with higher quality. Likewise, he taught us that no matter how well you do, there is always room for improvement. And he applied this lesson to his own life. As I mentioned, Big D had not graduated high school. I was really proud of my dad because he left school to help his mom and family and entered the Air Force. But he never stopped improving himself. He got his GED, machinist journeyman certification, and further education in a community college. I remember finally him coming home after overtime at De La Valle and practicing the words fuma and puma in Spanish very intently. I don't think I'm doing it right, but I'm kind of imitating him. Over 50 years later, I can still hear him practicing that. And the reason was he wanted to better communicate to some of his fellow union workers and also get some community college credits. One more story about improvement from this lesson. Improvement does not come quickly. You must take slow, steady progress. Big D demonstrated this aspect by building a lake on his retirement property. I remember the first time my dad started building the lake. He had just got the backhoe and had begun scraping out a ditch. He took my brother and me out there. Now, me and my brother. So then, pointing to a muddy gouge with a few puddles, my dad said, "Hey, look at my lake." My brother and I started laughing. Dad said, "What are you laughing about, you prima donnas?" My brother pointed out, "Dad, when you say lake, it connotates images of water. This is not a lake, it is a puddle." Dad just shook his head, climbed his backhoe, and said, "You will see, smart Alex." And we saw. A year or two later, there was a full-fledged lake. But Dad kept tweaking the lake up until the day he died. And we wonder why he did this, since he proved his point and gave us our initial lesson. It was a beautiful lake. Having returned to the land back in 2018, I finally had direct coordinates to it. So I sent it to my daughter. She found an aerial picture of it. Believe it or not, the reason he was tweaking that lake was he was making it into the shape of Texas. Now I'm going to include a link on the show notes, more in-depth block on this, and it will actually show the lake. It is definitely in the shape of Texas. I still can't believe it. But even though Dad was always improving himself, he had a heart. And his motto was, "Be tough, but have a heart." One area in which my dad did not need much improvement, of course, is toughness. My brother tells a great story about Big D at one of the campouts that my dad hosted for his fraternity. Big D had fallen asleep too close to the fire and one of his cowboy boots started burning. The fraternity brothers shook my dad awake, yelling, Big D, your boot is on fire." Big D, not batting at an eye, took off the boot, smashed it in the dirt, extinguished the fire, and said, "You know, I'm the toughest SOB that ever walked the face of the earth." Then promptly went back to sleep. You see, Big D was tough due to his childhood, but he still had a big heart. He taught us that you must be firm but fair and have a heart for others. I best learned that lesson one time I attempted to run away from home. We were moving away from New Jersey in the union job, and we were losing my friends. I thought the world was ending, but really it was only beginning. I did not know how my dad ever found me after I ran away, but he did. He told me that he was sorry and then I was tough. He then explained that he needed to move to Texas to make us a better life. He hugged me and I got in the car. There was no yelling this time, only love. The next thing I want to weave to is be part of a community. Another thing that my dad instilled in me was the power of community. My dad was our Cub master, our baseball and basketball coach, a union vice president, a softball player, and a member of several men's clubs. He also had a diverse set of friends and included some of our friends in our extended family. Some of them actually stayed at our house for a while. Now, I carried the importance of community, as you've heard on several of my podcasts, even today. I'm a leader or participant in several civic organizations. The lesson I learned from Big D about community was threefold. First, he led or was present in our activities to be part of our childhood. Second, when you meet people face to face, it is hard to stay in an argument. My dad was strongly opinionated, but you can't cast aspersions on someone like you can on Facebook when you're truly facing them. It's tough to hold a grudge or an argument when you see the person the following week. Last, when we act in community, we build people up instead of tearing them down. We become stronger because we're acting as a team in community in these civic organizations. And finally, the first and last lesson, be thankful. Big D was always thankful for his community and friends and was unafraid to show it. Thanksgiving's approaching us, and I miss the heartfelt prayers of thanks my dad used to say before Thanksgiving dinner. They were always extemporaneous, but they were great. They were simple but profound and gave thanks for all that was given to our family. But I got to tell you, I will never forget the Thanksgiving without him and the miracle provided to us in his remembrance. I will have in the show notes one of my best podcasts, and it's appropriate for Thanksgiving. I may even rerun it for Thanksgiving. It's called The Miracle of the Thanksgiving Cows. But here's a synopsis of it. 2 weeks after Big D died on the land, we went back to the land for Thanksgiving. The 10 cows he was raising were all expecting. As we rounded the bend, my family saw 2 new baby calves. During the rest of Thanksgiving, a new calf was born about every hour. So there were 9 near dinner time. However, one cow, Rosie, had a problem birthing her calf. After much chasing and antics, all in that other podcast, we finally got Rosie in the truck and took her to the veterinarian. We did not have Thanksgiving, but I would not have missed this event for the whole world. I've never seen a calf being born, and it is a tremendous sight. The vet wrapped the rope around the half-born calf and pulled it. The calf was born after a few moments that seemed like an eternity, and after lying on the ground for a few seconds, a few ticks, the calf made its first few steps and was alive after all that distress all Thanksgiving Day. At that moment, despite missing Thanksgiving dinner, I was never more thankful. I was grateful for my dad's gift of cows, and I was thankful for the timing and the happiness that the calves gave me and my family. Whenever I feel down or frustrated, I think of my dad's Thanksgiving prayers and those Thanksgiving calves. And that is a game changer. Counting your blessings can change your attitude to one of positivity. It can lift you up out of the despair of failure and toward the hope of tomorrow. And now here at the end of the weave and hope for tomorrow. We close this weave by coming full circle to yesterday's election. Whether your candidate won or not, let's remember the lessons of Big D. Wake up every day to get the iron out the door and food on your family's plate. Look for ways to improve yourself and those around you so you don't have time to cast aspersions on other people. Be passionate about your beliefs, but have a heart for those who may differ from them. And most of all, join the community and be thankful for this great country we have. We owe it to the legacy of the Big D's and Big Russes of the world and all our mothers and families. And until next week, here's hoping you have the opportunity to change well.